less effective monetary and credit system, makes it, they have to print a lot of money, can threaten the value of money. Second, when you have a large wealth gap and you have an economic downturn, people are more inclined to have conflict. So how that's dealt with, we're going to reconsider. We're no longer in a world order where the United States is the only dominant power. That what history has shown us is that when things get difficult, people get stressed and they can get angry and they could all fight with each other, and that produces the next leg of a terrible economy, because the economy won't work efficiently if people are fighting with each other. The system doesn't work well. With good total education, the good raising of children in terms of their actual formal education and their informal education, and then going out and having an environment of equal opportunity. Skill that you love, that sells, is what you need. Now you go to, each person has their own particular way of possibly getting that. To some case, it might be a start low in an organization and work your way up. To some cases, it may be a government training program. In some cases, it may be a relative or a friend who can get you going, and so on. As I said, one of my main principles is there's always a path out there. You just don't happen to see the path now. So you have to find the path. If you find that path, and you can't find it alone, the way you find that path is to speak to other people, get many ideas by other people. And then, you have to keep yourself trial and error. You got to keep at it. Like when you're getting a job or getting a skill, it's a lot of trying, and so that requires a certain amount of discipline. And if you have a discipline problem, get help with the discipline problem. Have somebody kick you out of bed or whatever it is that you can get there. There is a path. You just don't see the right path at the moment. And you can, because there are many, many paths. The most important thing, I think, is to know your nature. What is your nature? What are your strengths and weaknesses and your likes and your dislikes? And once you know that, then you also think, what are the fits? Oh, I would like that job, and the job could pay me well. And then you figure out, okay, how do you do it? How do I get to it? The realization that you don't have to make your decisions in your own head. Okay, that when you start to realize that you know what you're good at and what you're bad at, that a power comes to you when you start to know, okay, who's the best person to give me the advice, or who's the best person to lead me through this, or when you start to know that you can go beyond what you think and your opinionatedness, so that you can triangulate. I call it triangulate with others, so that you find 3 people who are really capable of giving you good advice, who will argue with each other and argue with you so you can see all sides of it, and you work yourself through. So it's not just your eyes looking for the path, but it's other people's eyes looking with the path with you, knowing that you're going to have successes and failures. But that power of that collective learning and triangulate well with humbleness is a great power as you go through that cycle. Once you have a fear that you might be wrong, but you have still the audaciousness and courage to go forward, you're a lot smarter than the person who thinks they know. There's a quote that Jefferson said, "He who knows he knows not is closer to the truth than he whose mind is filled with falsehoods." Do you have food to eat? Do you have basic health care? Okay, if you start to think, okay, what are my needs that I really need and I'm okay? And how can I make provisions for those needs? Then once you've got that in your mind, you're free. Once you visualize that and you get that down in your head and you say, oh, I can get that, then your stress will disappear, because as you visualize that, in many ways, that's a happy life. It doesn't take a lot. There's stimulation, there's nature, there's relationships. These fundamental, wonderful things, the most important things, can be obtained. And so for many of you, I think if you look at that and you budget for that, I'm seeing a number of people who are going broke. And I've watched this over many years. And really, it's just the adjustment process. Once they get to that point where, they get settled, they're fine. It's the ambiguity, it's the worry, it's the stress. So if you do that from the beginning and you have that played out in your head, then you know everything from there you can play with, and it's icing on the cake. So I want to emphasize, you can budget for that, you can look at that, find that scenario, find what that looks like so that you know you've got it down. Then you know you're safe. Once you've got safe, everything beyond that is luxury. I think in terms of any environment, the lessons that we get over and over again is that you can't be sure what the next environment and twists and turns are. What you don't know is greater than anything you do know. So the important thing are the more general abilities. In terms of investing, what that means is you need to know how to diversify well. That's the most important thing. In terms of any aspect in life, to know how to deal with what you don't know is more important than anything you know, because the world is so much more surprising than you can really be sure of. If your career is in one area, you have to know you have to develop the skill for changing a career. And that all comes down to knowing how to find the path, to know how to triangulate well with others. Well, for me, it's a lot of the alignment of the three things that I said before. What is my passion? Then, knowing my nature, what is my passion? And can I align my work to my passion? And then, does it pay adequately for me to take care of my needs? My nature is I'm extremely curious. Okay, and I love my game. My game is to learn about the world, interact with the world, and bet on it. And I'm very curious. So it might be whatever your game is, like you've got a game. And if you can line those three things up and you know your nature, because if you know your nature, you can find your role. You want to find the right role for you, right? It's not just go get a job and, it might say, I would like to be an architect. Well, you have to know your nature.